When I decided to start doing videos for bonsai, this is one of the videos I had in mind because it's a great way to save money. You see a lot of recipes out there for preparing fertilizer cakes for your bonsai, but I've not seen a video. I just kind of want to show you how easy the process is and show you some of the tricks of the trade as far as what I do when preparing this stuff. You can see the ingredients in front of me. I'll also post the ingredients either somewhere around the outside of the screen, maybe on the screen as the ingredients are coming up, or if you want to check out Orlando Bonsai, I'll put this into a post and put the ingredients in there as well. Again, check the internet. There's a lot of different recipes out there. This is the one I've used. I came across it about 13 years ago in our club. I have one ingredient that I don't see anybody else using, and believe me, when I get to it, you'll know which one I'm talking about. But in the meantime, I'm going to go through these real quick. Also, I'm not going to go over the benefits of each of these ingredients. You can do a little bit of research on your own to figure out, cottonseed or blood meal, bone meal, and you can find out why you would add, a lot of these different ingredients. But I'm not going to go over that because I'm trying to keep this relatively short without getting into too much detail. A lot of ingredients that go into this, but again, we'll get through this as quickly as possible. The recipe itself calls for parts and not cups or pints or any types of measurements. In order to make this easier for everybody, I'm going to do this as cups, which will equal 1 part. Because when you get to the liquids, they actually give specific amounts of liquid to add, not in parts. So this is per cup per part. For cottonseed meal, I'm going to move these out of the way. And normally I would use a bucket for doing this, but for the camera's benefit, I'm going to do this in this large pan. This scoop I got at a equipment retail store where you can get stuff for restaurants. It's a 5-ounce scoop, so I'm going to make these a little bit heaping to make it the full 8 ounces. Again, this one's cottonseed meal. It's going to be 3 scoops of that, or 3 parts of that. Next is hydrated lime. There'll be 2 parts of that. And for both the blood meal and the bone meal, it's 1 part of that each. Yeah, you kind of want to do this on a calm day, definitely a dry day, because this stuff holds a lot of moisture. And again, that's the ingredients right there. You're just going to kind of combine the ingredients as best you can. Now to that, we're going to add one of the worst, that lime is rough stuff, fish emulsion. You can get this in a deodorized version. I usually use just the regular stuff. It's a lot less expensive. You want to put in this 5 ounces. I've already used a lot of this bottle, so I'm just going to use the whole thing. So we can open that up. For mixing purposes, by the way, I use a cement spreader or mixer. It works very, very well. And there's that fish emulsion goodness that you just gotta love. This gives us distinct aroma to these fertilizer cakes. Plus it adds a little bit of liquid to actually hold these things together. Just want to combine that a little bit. There's an option if you'd like. I usually do it, and that's to add Super Thrive. It calls for 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces of the liquid. So that's pretty much this entire container. And just kind of continue to mix that in. Now you are going to need to add some water, but instead of adding straight water, I usually use either a Peter's 20-20-20 or a Miracle Grow 20-20-20 at full strength. You want to get this to the consistency of I guess like an oatmeal. I have some already pre-mixed. I'm just going to rinse this out so I make sure I get all of that wonderful fish emulsion. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, you kind of want to do this when the neighbors aren't home and the wife's not home, because they're going to want to kill you, because they're going to get downwind of this stuff and go, what in the world is going on? They'll think their sewage is backed up. And again, still combining this. You don't want to get it too wet, because you have to really let this stuff dry out to get it into a cube. So the more moisture you put into it, the longer it's going to take to dry. So you're going to add absolutely the bare minimum. Oh, make sure you wear rubber gloves too. You do not want to get this stuff on your skin. And we're starting to get there to the consistency that we need. The problem with this is, and again, this is where my recipe is a little bit different from a lot of you'll see on the internet. The materials don't like to hold. There's no bonding agent. They don't hold together very well. They actually become a crumbly consistency. I'm going to add just a little bit more water. And I think a lot of people are going to look at my next ingredient as if I'm out of my mind. But some people use flour, which I believe just adds more mass, which means the fertilizer cakes get diluted, which means you need more fertilizer cake to do the same amount of fertilizing. So what I use is Elmer's glue, a full bottle. Add it in. It doesn't add any mass to this. It holds it together very well. And again, these are slow release fertilizer cakes, so it's just going to help hold them together. The last thing you want these things to do is break down in your bonsai pot and then work its way through the soil and get in the bottom of your pot and start clogging it, because then you start getting root rot and you don't have good drainage for your soil. It's just a nice way to hold this all together. And again, it breaks down, doesn't hurt the roots, doesn't hurt the plant in any way, but it really holds this stuff together very, very well. And we're starting to get pretty close on this now. Show the picture what that looks like. When this was presented to the Bonsai Club years ago, the people that tried this for the first time thought it'd be a good idea to get it to set up a lot quicker by baking it. This seems like a, you're working on a recipe. It kind of made sense. Stick it in the oven. Well, with the fish emulsion and all these other wonderful ingredients, needless to say, that was a one-time procedure that never occurred again. And it's still a pretty funny story when you hear about how badly it smelled up their house. Talking about baking, I used to use baking pans, but this stuff's a little messy, and it's just a lot easier if you get these disposable pans. You can find these at any food store, and they're really inexpensive. You only need a couple of them to do the whole job. So, and again, you're just going to flatten it out. You want it about a 1-inch thick consistency, or consistent level. And sometimes it's just easier to get your hands in there. I do this every 1 or 2 years, make a nice batch of these. They last a long time. You don't need a whole lot per bonsai pot, and they last probably about 2 or 3 months each. So you get a good feeding season out of them without having to swap them out. Depending on the size of the pot, it tells how many cakes that you want to use at a time. But it's a nice way to give nice, consistent, organic food to your trees. Even though they kind of look like brownies, trust me, you get close enough to these things, you will not mistake them for anything other than a fertilizer cake. They smell like crazy. So, all you'll do now, leave this out in the sun for a few hours, and I usually come through with like a plastic knife and do horizontal and vertical striping through this. Cut them into about 1-inch cubes, and since they're about 1 inch thick right now on this tray, you'll separate them 1 inch, so they'll be perfect 1-inch cubes. Let them sit for a while. As soon as they get firm enough to take out of this tray, take them out of the tray and spread them out. They'll dry a lot faster. It usually takes, maybe like 4 to 7 days for these things to totally dry out, but make sure that they're completely dry before you store them, otherwise you'll start getting some sort of growth, and they just won't harden up like they should. And then store them in an airtight container for the season, and come spring, start applying to your trees. I start with a smaller amount and then slowly work myself up to the full strength to really load the pots up. But it's my little version of fertilizer cakes.